So we are with Andrew Jefford.
Great to be with you, Basile.
The book I'm reading currently is your book.
Drinking with the Valkyries.
I read the first 2 or 3 chapters. Sometimes I feel guilty because I'm making an alcoholic beverage. And we know how it can be harmful or how the society is fighting against alcohol. And so, I've always this question as a winemaker, as a wine salesman, why should I do that? And the second thing, and that's where you come, you wrote, wine is also nourishment for the soul. It was a therapy for me. It relieved me. And so I want just you to express a few words on that. In the second chapter, you talk about this scientific research and say, basically, human has been made for the past 1,000,000 years or 1,000 years as an alcoholic.
Well, we developed this special gene in order to help us process alcohol, which before that we couldn't do. So we developed that particular gene over the last 50 or 60,000 years, which has enabled us to process alcohol.
When I read that, for me, I hear something like suddenly it's like, it's natural today, it's natural to drink alcohol and it's not that harmful.
Well, to go back to the first point, one of the quotations I use in the book is from Euripides, the Bacchae, one of his greatest tragedies. Euripides, of course, the great Greek tragedian. And it's a terrible play, it's shocking. And yet at the same time, there's one phrase in which he talks about Dionysus, and he says, most terrible, yet most gentle to mankind. In other words, there is always this two faces. If abused, terrible things can happen. Yeah. But if used sagely, if used wisely, of enormous benefit to human beings. Because life is tough. Being alive is tough. It's a continual struggle. If we think we have it bad, our ancestors had it worse. Life expectancy was often 30 years, 35 years, no more than that. It was a perpetual struggle against everything. And yet, the work of Patrick McGovern, to which you also allude in your question, in researching residues on ancient pottery and so on, has discovered that for the last 9,000 years, people have been using alcohol as a salve to soften the difficulties of existence. In particular, the very earliest residue, they go back to China. And there you get an association of alcoholic residues, including wine, with music. So there was the association of music and wine from the earliest days, 9,000 years ago. So from the moment we've been able to domesticate this production, because in even earlier times it wouldn't have been domesticated, it would have been happenstance, rotting, fermenting fruit, which certain animals, including our ancestors, apes, but other animals too, also regularly use for intoxication or, to become intoxicated. Again, to soften the rigors of existence. It's something that's been a part of our lives for all of that time. And of course, now with the finesse of our wine culture that we have today, we've been able to calibrate that with extraordinary precision. And we've also been able to find further layers of cultural richness that it can bring us, notably through this association with place. Wine is how we taste place, how we can drink place. It's another way in which we can derive sustenance from place. And in fact, modern philosophers now, this isn't in the Valkyries book, but I've been doing some research on this in the last couple of years. The modern philosophy of place is now regarded as being of increasing significance philosophically as well as culturally. People are beginning to realize how much of our consciousness is structured by place. And to me, this is another aspect in which wine is very precious, because wine is the way in which we drink place. Wine is a way in which we can fall in love with places we've never visited by drinking the wine of those places. Our whole notions of terroir, the way in which we perceive terroir in a glass of wine, is very much connected with place. This is an intense focus, a distillation of place. That you can find in wines, not literally, but spiritually as well as in other respects too. So all of that is very significant and very nourishing.
Thanks very much, because I think people like me who work in the wine industry or who make wine, who craft wine, I think your words make us a bit more human.
Yeah.
And less disconnected.
Well, that's another thing. You have to remember that you're crafting an emotional product because wine triggers emotion.
Thank you, Andrew.